Things really about to heat up on the road to the Kentucky Derby and the Triple Crown Trail. 100 points to the winner. Those races on the road to the Derby start this weekend, this Saturday. There's two of them. There's one in Northern Kentucky over the all weather, not over the dirt. That's the Jeff Ruby. And then there's also the bigger one, the Louisiana Derby. That is over the main track, a mile and 3/16 down in New Orleans. I've been there a couple of years. Fun day, big races. Looking forward to it. And we're going to talk about it now. Bailey Armour and I on Horse Sense.
Welcome back to another edition of Horse Sense. As always, I'm Bailey Armour, joined alongside the world-class Scott Shapiro. And this week's topic, we've got a two-parter for you. This week is the first series of two 100-point prep races for the Kentucky Derby, like Scott mentioned. We've got the Jeff Ruby Stakes at Turfway Park up here in Northern Kentucky, and we've got the Louisiana Derby all the way down in New Orleans at the Fairgrounds. So pretty talented group of horses in both of these races. Alongside that 100-point race for the Kentucky Derby is a 100-point Kentucky Oaks race, the Fairgrounds Oaks, to be run at the Fairgrounds this Saturday. And we'll cover all three on today's episode of Horse Sense.
Yeah, and it's lots going on. I'd say pretty fairly that the last couple of weeks have been the calm before the storm. We kind of get another one actually midway through April, really the calm before the big storm of the Triple Crown, of course, in the Derby. But lots of good action, and that means lots of good promotions. Although I think a lot of our promotions are consistent all month in March, but a couple of them are just unique to the week, right, or unique to the day tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. We'll continue that $10 money back special series that we've been doing in both of those stakes races. And then it'll be one of the final weekends of our 2 million point hit and split at Santa Anita on Sunday.
Cool deal. And then a couple of other things of note, tournament wise, we've got a big tournament, one of the most popular on Xpressbet, first bet coming up next week, Florida Derby, $1,500 buy-in, or $1,500 entry fee. $1,000 will go to the pool, or to the live money, $500 to the pool. So that'll be cool. That's a part of a huge day next Saturday. Obviously, Gulfstream Park with Florida Derby, and then the Oakland Park hosting the Arkansas Derby. So it'll be two more bangers, if you will. And I'm going to start at three. I do spaces most weeks on Saturday, but definitely kind of zoning in on the next 3 weeks as a whole. And I've got three fun spaces scheduled on Saturday morning. This one is going to be at 9 a.m. Obviously, going to break down the two cards, the two biggest races in New Orleans and at Turfway Park, two places I'm very familiar with. That'll kick off at 9 a.m. Eastern, the first of the three Road to the Derby morning spaces. Well, it is a huge Saturday down at New Orleans. Big ramifications both for the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. And that means the big races closing out the cards like they always do down in New Orleans. Fairgrounds, Oaks, Louisiana Derby, of course, 100 points to the winner, both those races, as Bailey referenced just a few moments ago. And not only are these races big for the connections, obviously, but also big for horse players because they'll close out big sequences, whether that be the pick 5, the pick 4, the late pick 3, daily double. There's lots of ways to go with your opinions in these last couple of races to kind of leverage your strongest opinions over the card, Bailey. Let's just from a looking at the field's perspective, the Fairgrounds Oaks, the big favorite in here is going to be Good Cheer. She's 5 for 5. She's won over this course. She won the local prep, the Rachel Alexandra. Her main rivals are going to be, Ahava, who Cherie DeVoe will send out aggressively against the likes of Good Cheer in a graded stakes race. First time going 2 turns, first time against winners. Goel's Delight finished a well-beaten second to Good Cheer. And then you have the Louisiana Derby, where it's a pretty wide open group. John Hancock will be the favorite there. But let's start with the Fairgrounds Oaks. You're building tickets. I know you were kind of looking over things in terms of how you were going to maybe play your main wager on the card towards the end. What were you able to come up with in terms of these couple of races that was maybe ideal or hopefully going to be ideal for you?
Yeah, I think they've got a really nice sequence of all stakes races towards the end of the card here. You've got some older horses coming back, and then of course these 200-point preps for the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. So starting out with the Fairgrounds Oaks, like you mentioned, that number 7 Good Cheer is going to be super, super short priced. I will say she's probably the classiest in filly in the field that we have seen so far. Now, Ahava's only got one start under her belt. Personally, I was more impressed with Ahava's gate to wire win in that 6 furlong maiden race, and then went back and watched an interview that Cherie did, where Cherie said she was like practically begging for 2 turns.
And that's
And
the
they asked,
trainer, Cherie DeVoe, just for, for, I call her Cherie too when I talk about her.
I know,
Maybe not
forcing
everybody, yeah. It's a good sign of success in life when people call you by your just one name, right?
by your
Prince,
first name.
Cherie,
Yeah.
Bailey.
So she's like Rihanna and Beyonce, but she's just Cherie at this point. So Cherie DeVoe, her trainer, of course, did an interview, said that they're going to target 2 turns next out. And the way that she's been training, especially in her last workout, if you just search her name on Twitter or X or whatever, you'll see the same video that I did. She's a really almost mechanical, like robotic like worker in that last work. The way that she just kind of puts everything together, she looks really, really classy to me. So I'm going to try to take a little bit of a price play over Good Cheer. She's 8-1 on the morning line. You'll probably be lucky to get 4 or 5-1 on her, but at that price for a second time starter against this field, I'll take it.
Okay, and yeah, I think I heard that Bless the Broken, who's cross entered in the Turfway Park Bourbonnette Oaks, that's just their points race there. I think Bless the Broken will go in that. So you got your opinion in the Fairgrounds Oaks. You're going to probably use the second or third choice when all is said and done, but will be against an odds-on favorite. How about what did you come up with in terms of the Louisiana Derby? How you wanted to approach that? Sounds to me, if you know, if you're not, if you don't have a huge bankroll, you're getting into it the horizontals, you're trying to beat a favorite in the first, in the first of these 2 races we're talking about, a daily double and a pick 3 will work fine. Obviously, if you have a bigger bankroll, if you're having success, you want to take a bigger swing, extending that, further out. But, you'll be happy with the payout if you beat Good Cheer on the daily double, obviously depending on what you tell me coming up now in the Louisiana Derby.
Yeah, I feel like there's kind of 2 like avenues that I see it here, kind of a fork in the road. You can either take
Hopefully not East Avenue. He's not running.
no, not an East Avenue, just one of 2 for sure. That's a good one. I like that. If you take Ahava in the first leg, like I'm probably going to plan on doing, I'll either go John Hancock in the Louisiana Derby. Of course, this is a horse that scratched out of the Tampa Bay Derby, ended up coming here instead.
No, the
Probably
Virginia Derby.
Virginia Derby. Sorry, excuse me. I'm getting
He
my
raced
Derby.
at Tampa in his first 2 starts, though, so you're not off there.
Raced at Tampa, was going to go to Virginia, but they ended up sending Owen Almighty instead.
No, Virginia Derby. Owen Almighty was the winner of the Tampa Bay Derby. The Virginia Derby, they sent Rapture, and I don't know if he finished yet. I picked him.
I think he's still running, and I'm so mad because I was really keen on that horse, and then he was not as keen on me when it came to the windows. But it's fine. I digress. Probably John Hancock's race to lose. So if I get a better price on Vava in the beginning of this late daily double,
Ahava.
Vava's half sister, $1 million
It's tricky.
This is why you can't name these siblings too close together. It's strictly to spite and torture me, and this is the hill that
I
I will
think
die
there's a
on.
good story behind this name, but anyhow.
It means
Hebrew,
love in
right?
Hebrew, and she's got like a heart on her forehead. She's really, really cute filly. So probably John Hancock, but I wanted to ask her opinion on Bossimo, the number 7. I think he's ballpark 12-1. Blinkers on for the first time, got caught up like in the herd in the pack in the turn last time, almost started kind of running backwards essentially, and then found that late rally under his rider and then got up to finish for 4th by basically a head, a nose, whatever you want to call it. So that's the 2 ways I'm looking at it. Can you help me narrow it down?
Yeah, well, I'll answer the question from a handicapping perspective, and then we'll go to the wagering side of things, since that's what the theme of this segment is. In terms of my thoughts on Vassimo, this is who I picked in the Risen Star, and to be honest, It was a weird trip. I definitely understand. I understand why Todd Pletcher's adding blinkers, because one could definitely argue he lost focus, and that was definitely a part of it. I also think he didn't really come home that fast. It was passing horses that weren't running all that much. That's
Yeah.
the concern for me, because, you could obviously look at that race and say, he got lost, he ran in spots, however you want to say it, and he came with a strong run. But when I like to look at the late pace ratings on Brisnet for that, and he got a pretty slow late pace rating. He was going much faster earlier in the race, so it was a weird track that day. The blinkers are on. There's a lot that could go right for Vassimo. I liked him last time. He's probably a horse, if I'm fading the favorites, that I would definitely include. Now we'll get to the horse, the daily double. You're trying to beat Good Cheer in the first leg of the daily double, right? We're talking now. We've gotten to the point where Bailey has come up with her opinion in these two races. They're not chalky enough to where she thinks she wants to extend out to a pick 3, pick 4, or even that's just not the way she wants to approach this wager. So we're beating a favorite in the first race. You can definitely use more than one horse in the double. If you opted to use both of these, I would probably structure it so you have a higher dollar value on John Hancock. A, it sounded like you're a little stronger conviction. B, he's going to be a much shorter price, so the payout's going to be less. So that would be one point I would make. If you were deciding to not use John Hancock, I think you can play a double where you're using, 3 different horses, as long as they're not, amongst the favorites in the race, because you're beating 2 favorites. You're getting, you're knocking a lot of the public out of the pool. So hope that makes sense. We're going to continue to knock away at these, playing tickets type horizontal structuring stuff. And maybe we'll build on stuff as, maybe the audience gets a little bit more familiar with things. But did that make any sense, Bailey?
Yeah, I think it definitely made a lot of sense. Thanks for your help.
Well, we just talked about the big races down in Louisiana, at least for the 3-year-olds. There's some other big races on that card. Huge card up at Florence, Kentucky, not too far from where One Bailey Armour is, but far enough that, she's not going to head up there. But the big race there is the Jeff Ruby Grade 3 mile and 1/8. Of course, all the races there over the all-weather surface. And the deserving 3-1 morning line favorite is number 9 Poster. This is a Ian Hardy trainee. Started at 2 turns right away, won 3 in a row, 2 on the turf as the 2-year-old. Came back in the Sam F. Davis. And while this horse did not win or did not finish second, he ran a really good third. I mean, we're talking about 2 legitimate horses. The favorite in John Hancock won the Sam F. Davis. And then the runner-up Owen Almighty came back and won by a pole in the Tampa Bay Derby. And Poster, he was up against it from a race shape perspective, and then he had to make a 4-wide middle move. He's legit, but you've got to wonder, what price is okay to take since he's never raced over this surface. He comes from out of it, so he'll need to work out a trip. After him, you've got a couple of the local runners that are coming out of the John Battaglia, which is less than 30 days ago. The winner was California Burrito. You've got Baby Max. You've got Maximum Promise. I think all of them, they hit the wire, or the 2 of them hit the wire close to each other. I think they've all got a shot. Where did you land? Who are you going to ask me to talk you off, Bailey?
Well, first of all, shocker, I am going up there on Saturday for this day of
Wow.
racing. I know, plot twist. My best friend Mary works for Pin Oak Stud, and they've got a runner in an undercard stakes race. So she has very graciously invited me to go with them. So really looking forward to that.
Good luck,
Always,
Mary.
thank you. Always love a night at Turfway. I will pass along the cheer to those folks.
Hey, it's a day. It's a day. This is the rare day card.
The rare day card, and hopefully it will not be like overcast like it is in Kentucky today, because I swear to God, if I get one more day of overcast, foggy, and rainy and 35-mile-an-hour winds, I'm just going to pack up and, I don't know, go to the Bermuda Triangle or something, because I really can't take it anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of wind in these parts too, but quit whining anyway.
Anyway, enough whining about that. Looking at this race, I need your help. I need you to talk me off of the number 6 Baby Max. And in between segments, you said you're not as keen on him as maybe I am, and I'm not super keen on him. I think that there are other races, other prep races this Saturday, and then of course those undercard stakes that I'm going up there for that I'm more excited for than this one. It will be good to see some of our kind of Triple Crown Trail contenders running in person, which is one of the nice things about being in Kentucky. But This is a horse, a local Turfway horse who's used to the all-weather track, which I think for me is important with horses running here. They're adding blinkers this time. He's a positive pattern when it comes to his running style. He kind of wins and then gets a solid second, I will say, a respectable second. Second last out, like you mentioned, right behind California Burrito, who probably comes into this race as the favorite. So I'm going to try to take a little bit of an advantage here with Baby Max, who's 5-1 on the morning line.
Well, California Burrito will probably be the second choice. I think Poster will be the favorite. With Baby Max will be right there behind California Burrito. So I'm kind of against the race that he's coming out of first and foremost. So makes it a little easier than some of the other weeks where you talk you off of this one. I think the Battaglia Memorial, it's at a shorter distance. This horse was right up and on a slow pace. There were two, excuse me. The two of them are across the wire and they're coming back quickly. I just don't know if I see upside in either California Burrito and Baby Max. Maybe you don't need upside. Maybe a repeat of that effort of that race will be good enough. My guess is that it won't be. And I know you mentioned the addition of blinkers. Now, and let me credit Baby Max. If you look at his numbers, he's moving forward. It's not as if I expect him to take
Yeah.
big regress. Yeah. But why the additional blinkers when there's really no reason, in my opinion? The horse is moving forward. I never really love that. I'm wrong at times too. And Kelsey, Danner, the trainer, has pretty good numbers. I don't know. The pedigree is a little bit iffy, and just the way this horse is run. But the bottom side, I guess, the 1.125 isn't too bad for me. I just think he's one of several in here that are about the same. And I just was underwhelmed by that prep race, making it very difficult for me to want 5-1.
Okay, well, who were you going to take here then?
I was taking a bigger swing. Originally, I thought maybe the third place finisher in the Battaglia was a little interesting just because he really had no shot for a couple of reasons. But when I saw Maximum Promise was 5-1, that made that a lot less appealing. I think 5-1, or definitely was not double-digit odds like I'd hoped. I'm going to take a big swing with number 2, Charlie's to Blame. Source comes in off 2 straight wins. He's got 2 wins since moving to 2-turn races for Peter Yurton. They spent $400K for this horse that's clearly bred to run. I hate, I use the word all day sometimes, maybe not all day, but long enough in any, race in America that he's going to probably ask to run at any time soon. And while there's speed in the race, I don't think there's a ton. I think Innovator will be on the lead. I think Charlie's to Blame could, he hasn't proven that he can pass horses yet, but I don't watch him and think he's an either lead type. Juan Hernandez is in to ride from California. And I just think he's going to get a really good trip. So I'm willing at 15-1 to accept the fact that the all-weather is a question mark. At least he's got a good work over it, though, on March 14th.
I'm going to throw him in there alongside some other horses, especially he'll probably be my money back special play horse. I asked JP this morning, Jeremy Plunk, for those who don't know, on our morning meeting, like how many starters Peter Yurton had at the Turfway meet, because seeing the two of them together, especially Juan Hernandez coming in to ride from California, definitely had my ears perked up about that one. I like the turf to synthetic angle better than probably any other shift. I think it plays much closer to what the horse is more familiar with, basically. And 15-1 is a freaking nice price. So I think I'm going to play him the money back special and play Baby Max on top in my bets.
Yeah, with the money back special, I've been writing about these every week. Bailey's, the one promoting them. Great to play. And, sometimes you look at a lower price horse and you're like, well, there's no way this horse isn't going to be in the top 3. This feels like a free win bet. Okay, that's a fine way to approach it. But another way is to take a big shot. It's not going to feel great if Charlie's to Blame runs second at 15-1, but at least you get your money back and you live to fight another day instead of just losing the money.
As always, thank you so much for watching another edition of Horse Sense. I'm Bailey Armour and was joined alongside, as usual today, with my co-host, the wonderful Scott Shapiro, as we covered the Jeff Ruby Stakes and the Louisiana Derby, as well as the Fairgrounds Oaks this Saturday at Fairgrounds and Turfway Park. Make sure you check out all the promotions we've got going on at Xpressbet and FirstBet this weekend. Plenty of options to get your money back, to earn some rewards points. You never know. So just keep checking. Let us know who your picks are in these fantastic trio of races across the country this weekend, and we'll see you next week on Horse Sense.